This is WLUW Chicago 88.7 FM. And we have with us at WLUW for Trudy Leong Interviews, Glenn Sevier. He is a therapist specializing in his walk and talk therapy. Welcome, Glenn.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Trudy. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about walk and talk therapy.
Okay, so first of all, what is walk and talk therapy?
Yes, well, walk and talk therapy, it's a alternative way of working with my clients or working with clients rather than being inside the four walls of an office. You actually have the opportunity of taking them out on a walk, whether it be in an urban setting, along the lake, in the forest preserve, wherever we feel that's an appropriate place for us to be, but definitely walking. Mm-hmm.
In other words, nature is more conducive to a good conversation and a good session. However, as long as you're walking, even a hallway is okay?
Hallway is always fine, whether we're outside or whether we're inside. Again, it's just about movement. It's about being able to feel free when you're talking about various things that we need to talk about, and being able to move your arms and your legs. It's just getting that energy out, and it's being able to allow you to express in a way that maybe you haven't in the past. Or maybe you have in the past, and it's been general conversations with a friend or family member, but now it's more specific about therapy.
When you're walking and helping the client, do you see that at the end of the session, after a walk and talk session, the outcomes seem to be different from a sitting down session?
I think so. One of the things that come up when we're done, sometimes I'll hear my clients say, it's a deep breath, like, that was a good session, they'll say. And when we look back on it, we have walked anywhere between 2.5 to 3 miles at the same time. So it's always in movement. It's always moving forward. And like I said, if you're an exercise individual, you can say, oh, I've had so many steps today. I didn't realize that we walked for that amount of time and for that distance. So it has a lot of different things going on when you're doing your walk and talk therapy. Especially when you're outside, you get the chance to notice a lot of different things. Your breathing is a lot more calm. You're able to have the sunlight, for vitamin D. You're able to just feel like you're free. And at the same time, when you're walking side by side. Again, sometimes my clients will state that it's so much different being outside. I don't feel like I'm in a closed environment. I don't feel like, the sterile environment with wooden chairs, and I'm in trouble. That's, they may say that sometimes. But when you're outside, it's a totally different experience. We're on a shared playing field, walking the halls as I used to when I was, as I work in the schools, and I'm working with a student, and they may agree to participate in walking and talking. And side by side is pretty cool, they say. You know what? I don't feel like I'm in trouble.
Did you get inspired by your walks with the students when you were a counselor at school?
I did. So back in 2003, I started working in a suburban high school. And, working with students, it can be a challenge. Sometimes students don't always want to talk about some of the things that they have going on, especially if it's something dealing around anxiety or depression or even trauma. And so for a school social worker such as myself, I may be deemed to see them on a, regular basis, weekly basis, and they may see me as an individual that they've experienced in the past. So they may not be willing to share all of their experiences. So for me, it was a way of trying to meet my students where they were and ask, we don't have to go back to my office. We can easily just walk the halls. And walk in the halls and then sometimes climb into the next stairs, and obviously walk in the halls when the classes were in session. And it was a really cool idea, something that they bought into. And from there, it was, I would say, give me just 3 tries for this walk and talk idea. And by the second time, I think they bought into it. And so that's how I began this whole process of walk and talk. And if it wasn't on the inside of our, hallways, we were also outside on our track. And so that was a great way for me to start. And that was back in 2003. That's when I began to think about, this is something that I can take back to my private practice. I also had teachers that were also wanting to speak with me about students that may have triggered them in a way that they hadn't experienced in a long time. And so I've had teachers, they may say, Mr. Sevier, I'd like to speak with you about that student that you're walking with. Great student, but I've had some interactions with them and something where my buttons were pushed. I was triggered. Can I talk to you about that? And I would ask if they would like to walk around the track outside. And, we would start out by talking about the student and their interactions. But within 10 minutes, the trigger really led back to their own experiences. Now, obviously, I can't be a therapist with my staff, but it allowed me to begin to think about how could I bring this back to my private practice. And that's when I really put it on the marquee, Glenn Sevier, therapist, walk and talk therapist. Mm-hmm.
While you're walking, let's say in the hallways or outside in nature, when you see something surrounding you, such as in nature, maybe a bird alighting on a branch or something else, do you ever incorporate what you see into your therapist session?
Yeah, it's mindfulness when you're outside walking, and it's about everything around you. Your senses are experiencing everything: what you see, what you feel, what you hear, and I try to use all those experiences. I can recall once one early morning, I think it was 6:30 in the morning, with a client. It was around 6:30 in the morning, and it was pretty cold outside, probably around 15 degrees. Had been for 4 or 5 days, and that's when the Lake Michigan begins to freeze up, and so we were walking. But then I said, let's just stand still for a moment. And what we heard, it was so interesting, was the water just crackling, the water freezing. And you could see all the icicles in the water as the waves were going up and down. You can also see how the icicles were forming. But this sound, it was like an orchestra being played. And it was so interesting the way we both experienced that. And that was mindfulness. That was observation, but it was mindfulness to see how things were forming right in front of us. And so I began to use that analogy of how things can form right before us, and how intentions can also be helpful in the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. But that was just a really good silent moment. It was silent, but it was loud. The crackling of the icicles forming. Mm-hmm.
Well, you and the client probably get a sense of something more powerful all around when you look at the lake like that. And there was also the cold fog rising too from the waters.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All of those experiences are just really it's monumental in the way that we are walking and being able to observe and also being a part of it. I also see human nature or nature mimicking human experiences. And as we're walking along the lakefront or walking through the forest preserve, we get the chance to experience a lot like cold wind, even rain we're outside, or snow. Sometimes we're having to navigate the terrain of the beach where it's very hilly. Those are experiences that very much mimic my clients' day-to-day experiences. And if we can get through those days, even on the cold days where it's 0 degrees, I may ask, are you still ready to go outside? It's kind of cold out there. And students and my clients will say, of course I'm ready to go out. This is what I've been waiting for. This is what I want to do. I want to be able to conquer something today. And it's conquering a walk, or whether it's conquering fears or challenges that they have in their life, that's how we fuse both of those experiences together.
In the beginning, when you started the walk and talk therapy, your clientele wasn't familiar with it yet. So when you introduced it to them, let's do this. And then what was their reaction going outside and walking?
Yeah. Well, for each client, they may not want to be involved in a walk and talk, but I may ask. Sometimes it's based off of if they were an outdoorsman, if they enjoyed camping, if they were involved in outdoor sports. Questions that could pertain to would they be ready to go outside for a walk and talk. And really depends on just even if they don't like being outdoors, but they just want to do something different. And that's really been helpful for me to ask. And for the most part, my clients will want to try it. Now it depends on the weather. Some clients would definitely like to be outside in nice weather, with the sun. Some clients may not because it's just too cold. So it really just depends. But I pitch it as a way as opportunity. Let's look at this as an opportunity.
Well, if the weather was too inclement to walk, are you able to find somewhere indoors, like in the office building, to walk anyway?
Mm-hmm. There are places to go with my clients. If it's like an indoor track at the local gym, free gym, sometimes a mall. Depends on the time of the day. A lot of these malls open up as early as 7 o'clock. The stores aren't open, but we can still walk throughout the mall. And there's some other areas that, even for a student, if they don't mind coming to school a bit early, we can also participate on our walk and talks. Mm-hmm.
What other kinds of therapy do you combine with walk and talk?
Well, the walk and talk modality is something that is all to its own, but the type of diagnosis that client may be diagnosed with. So if they're dealing with anxiety, if they're dealing with depression or even trauma, the walk and talk modality on its own is just another way of helping to have more conversation with that client, building trust with that individual to make sure that they know that we are still working on what you would work on as if you were in the office, but we're finding a different environment to be able to discuss those very same topics and concerns. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What disorders are best suited to walk and talk, or are all of them?
I think all of them. Definitely, again, around anxiety, depression, even for individuals that may be experiencing ADHD and trauma. I work with individuals that feel like they need to release energy, especially those that are dealing with anxiety. And walking and talking is a great way to be able to release that energy. If it's nervousness or just anxiousness, they talk about having panic attacks. And when we're walking and sharing those experiences, it's just another way of getting this energy out. Matter of fact, just before we started our program this morning, I was feeling a little nervous, right? And so what did I do? I said, Trudy, can I go over in that corner over there and do some push-ups just to exert some of this angst, And I think for my clients, it's the same way. So those are some strategies that we use. I'm just glad they're able and wanting to participate in a new modality that really kind of focuses on using a way of movement as a way of helping them to relax and to be able to discuss things that are difficult to discuss.
Yeah, we hear a lot about how important physical exercise is, and then some people, they have a job where they're moving around all the time. But even though that is still separate from the physical exercise, and it seems as if what you're telling me now is that that physical exercise is a release, and it aids in so much more.
It is. Exercise allows you to raise your heart rate, and in doing so, it helps you to release dopamine, also feel good chemicals, and so doing so, it allows you to feel more comfortable, possibly sharing if we're in a walk and talk session. And that's the reason why I like that walk and talk modality as well, is exercise, feeling good, being able to walk side by side and share things that are sometimes difficult to talk about.
Over the years, we have heard so much about walking being the best kind of exercise.
Walking, anything outdoors, even if I'm walking with a client and they may feel like, Glenn, I think I've walked about as far as I can. And maybe it's only been 2 blocks. That's okay. We're still outside. We can have a seat. We can find some place to sit down, or we can stand and just take all the nature that's around us. And that alone, that's the main thing, is making them feel comfortable being outdoors as a way of sharing. Mm-hmm.
What about the pace that you keep with the clients? Do you kind of step back and see how fast the client wants to go, and then you maintain that pace?
Boy, that's an interesting one. That's a good question. Yesterday being Saturday, I walked with 3 separate clients. All three had different paces. I had one that was more of a stroller, and we took our time. And the other one, they were a former pro athlete, very fast walker, very intense. They wanted to take every terrain that was possible. And my last one, again, fast walker. So, it really depends. Sometimes we find ourselves going, at a nice pace. And sometimes if we get into conversations that's based around something more intense, they may slow down. Or sometimes they may speed up. But it doesn't make, it's, again, where they are is where I'm at. The pace they are, that's the pace I'm going with. I just want to make sure that they know and understand that no matter what, I'm right by your side, and we're going to do it together. And while doing it together, we're also having discussions that's focused on problem solving and support.
Those 2 clients that were very eager to overcome all that terrain, was that terrain in Rogers Park?
Yes, it is in Rogers Park. Well, matter of fact, 2 of those clients were in Rogers Park. We walked from my office to the lake, and then along the lake, and then make a full circle back to my office. So there's an urban setting, but there's also the nature of walking along the lake. And my last client was in Evanston, leaving from Rogers Park, walking all the way up to Northwestern's campus, and returning. Yeah, very exciting, a lot of fun, and I think it's been extremely beneficial.
I had a discussion with a guest not too long ago about how he wants to deal with other people, try to help people deal with suicide, because he was having trouble with that. Mm-hmm. What about walk and talk in terms of helping people with maybe suicidal tendencies, or what that are contemplating suicide, that want to get over it? How does walk and talk help?
Well, yes. So we're talking about suicidal ideations. It's helpful. I would say if that individual is really having suicidal ideations, that's another process where I would want to make sure that individual is seeking immediate attention, and that may be for them to go in and meet with someone more of a ER emergency type type process. But if it's something that they've shared, that they've experienced over the years, but it's nothing that is having a direct impact on them now, where they're actually having suicidal ideation, where they're having a plan of action, but they're just sharing. Again, it's like any other, session, whether we've been in my office or outdoors. It still is talking about things that are very pertinent to them and coming up with strategies, and also just providing that kind of support, but definitely strategies. But I always want to make sure if it's something that's impeding on my clients day to day and they are having actual thoughts of suicide, then we will go to the next level.
This is WLUW Chicago 88.7 FM. And we have with us at WLUW, broadcasting from Loyola University, Water Tower Campus, Glenn Sevier, therapist and walk and talk therapy. Glenn, what about people who are very concerned about somebody that is contemplating suicide and that is stressing them out? Do clients like that come to you, and how does walk and talk help them?
So you're asking if there's someone that they may have a friend or a loved one that's contemplating suicide, but they come speak with me, that individual is still concerned about the others. Yeah, I mean, I will definitely speak with that individual who may have a family member or a friend or a loved one that's experiencing or having thoughts of suicide. We will, during our walk and talk session, or I will say even in my office or via Zoom, we will have those pertinent conversations of ways that they may be experiencing the stress of working or having this loved one go through these type of experiences. And for me, with the walk and talk is just another way for us to have a conversation and process what they may be experiencing and how they could feel supported, strategies and ways that they can, look for resources for that individual in ways that they can support that individual of trying out various groups, looking for a therapist if they are looking for one, if they don't have one. All of those things I'm working with my client on could be helpful. That may be an opportunity for them to be out in nature and for them to be able to have a way of somehow relaxing a little bit so that they can kind of debrief, because that can be very, very, very stressful when you're having a loved one or a friend that's going through that and not knowing what to do. So we will problem solve on strategies and things like that.
So, in other words, walk and talk is conducive to therapy and is conducive to finding solutions?
Always trying to find solutions, but also feeling comfortable enough to, walk and talk is not just about creating. It's about cultivating what my clients already have. They have the knowledge, but sometimes we have to cultivate it enough for them to be able to hear themselves speak out. Oftentimes we walk around and we have these thoughts and we don't know how to actually hear it. We don't know how to process it. Sometimes being out in nature allows us to slow down a little bit. Like I said, when those endorphins are being released, dopamine is being released, we're able to release some of those dopamines for us to calm down. And in doing so, we can think a little bit more clear. And in doing so, we can have more strategies or come up with different solutions for some of the things that we kind of know what we need to do, but at the same time, we haven't really pressed the button to actually do it. And having that kind of support during our conversation allows them to say, you know what, I guess I will try that.
Are there any clients that, all of us in our daily lives, it's very hard to find some time to just go outside and take a walk. But do you ever have clients that come back to you? Now I've walked and talked with you. Now I feel that I go on a walk now and then, and it really is helpful.
I do. I just spoke with a former client just last week, and they stated, I still walk past your house, but I'm walking with my husband, and we take our weekly walks, and we have done that for the past 5 years, meaning that I've, worked with them 5 years ago, but they found a way of using it as their day-to-day. It's more than just therapy. It's an opportunity of going out in nature either by yourself and journaling, and it's also going out with a friend, going out with your loved one. It's just a great way of just being outdoors.
Have you ever been asked by schools to come in and teach walk and talk?
I have. Matter of fact, at my current school, we have tried to implement that during. It's a high school. We tried to implement that during. It's called a study hall, and once a week we will get together, and we will ask those students in the study halls if they would be willing to walk the track. And it's just a great way for our students to be outside in nature. And, a lot of times our students are dealing with a lot. And the way that they try to avoid or to combat some of those stressors is being on the phone. And in doing so, when do they really begin to learn how to socialize? Especially during the pandemic, everyone felt isolated, and having meaningful, intentional conversations was pretty difficult, especially during those years of middle school, early high school, when you're formulating friends and you find yourself isolated. So that exercise with these students has been very, very beneficial. And I'm thinking about, as I move further out in my career, that maybe I can start going to other schools and helping them to create a walk and talk sessions during school hours.
That exercise session with those high school students, do they go outside and walk and talk with you, or they have walk and talk among themselves as well?
Very good question. So, yes, so it's not walk and talk therapy with me at the school, but it is walk and talk. So we will create questions, very intentional questions that may appear very basic, but it's a basic conversation, or they're basic questions to have, start out having basic conversations, just as a way for them to be out, not to be censored. Sometimes they're walking with their friends, but I really would like for them to walk with other students that they may not know. And it's just a great opportunity for them to share, hear themselves talk out loud, and also realizing that some of the experiences that they've had or going through, that guess what? Other people go through the same thing. Other students are having some of the same obstacles, sometimes same challenges, or sometimes they're relating in a way that is enjoyable. Music, TV shows, sports. So it really gets my students to begin to think about, I need to put down this phone. I need to be out. I need to be chatting with my friends. And they do that.
That sounds to me like breakout sessions during conferences, because I have been to so many conferences when I was a student, and I always came out with away with the feeling that I could have accomplished more at those breakout sessions, but I wasn't prepared. Now that I'm talking with you about the walk and talk, it seems as if we had done those breakout sessions in outside, maybe it would have maybe helped us accomplish more.
Mm-hmm. Breakout sessions outside, and not only breakout sessions outside, but walking outside during the breakout. That would really be cool. If we had an environment where that can be conducive for those type of breakout sessions, that would be really nice. I agree.
Well, actually, we do, but we never really accessed them because we were like nice conference centers or hotels, and outside, of course, there are places where we could have walked. Absolutely.
I think the more that walk and talk. And walk and talk therapy is becoming well known now. I think the more that people are able to realize how helpful it is, I think it could be something very, very doable.
And Glenn, you have been a student here at Loyola University. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I received my PEL, which is a professional education license, and I participated in this program. It's a year program. and I received my master's in social work from another university. But I wanted to come back, and I wanted to get my license so I can work in the schools. My wife and I, we started having little ones. We have 2 daughters, and I was trying to figure out a way, how can I spend quality time with my family? And so it's so interesting because my wife, she also graduated from Loyola. She had got a doctorate in psychology years ago. And, she was a school psychologist. My mom and aunts and cousins, they're also teachers. And I was like, I need to find a way to spend quality time with my family. So, long story short, decided to attend Loyola University and receive my PEL. And that consisted of a full year. We took classes. And we also did my internship within the high school settings. Yeah.
And with that, you were able to become the high school advisors? Yeah.
Yes, school social worker. So in the school social worker, licensed clinical social worker in my private practice.
And how did you learn about the program at Loyola?
Just looking around, call and find out what universities best suit my style and approach. And I just made a cold call one day, and the gentleman said, "You know what? Yes, we have some openings. Please apply." And step by step, long story short, I got in. Very, very, very happy about it. As a matter of fact, the campus, the North Shore campus, is only less than a mile away from my school. From my home, though the school that I attended, the site or the campus is right downtown. Yeah.
The Water Tower campus is where
Absolutely.
you got your certification.
Exactly.
So so it's the PEL and okay. So at that time you knew what you wanted, but did you know that the name of that certification was PEL?
I did know it because like I said, I did my research on it, and I knew that was going to be the best approach for me to be in the schools as a school social worker. So I said, after a while, our oldest was probably about 6 months. I said, you know what? I've got to make this move. I'm going to do it. This would be the time. And it really worked out. Now, in my school now, as a school social worker, my role as a school social worker, I also have the opportunity of working with interns that are from Loyola University. So that's a full circle. So I have periodically over the past 9 years, I've had maybe 5 interns coming from the school social work department that's coming to my school, training to be a school social worker. And I bring up about walk and talk, and they leave with that in mind, and some of them have reported back to me that they use that with their students one-on-one. So it really is a growing field. If you look now, if you Google up walk and talk therapy now, you'll see people are, very interested. You have therapists around the country and even around the world now. They're also using that modality. But I'm glad that I was able to create that and begin using that in 2003. That's when I coined it, walk and talk therapy.
Mm-hmm. Do you get any compensation from the trademark?
I do have a trademark for it. Walk -in -talk. That was the most effective way. At least my lawyer thought it would be a great way, because everyone uses walk and talk. So I wanted to make it a little bit more official, a little bit more different. And so I like it. Yeah. I can tell my daughters, Dad has done something right with his life, and walk and talk is probably one of those things. I'm just kidding, but it's good to be able to think out the box.
Well, a lot of students, and one more question
Sure.
about Loyola. So where did you intern when you were in that program?
Sure. One of the schools that I interned was at Mather High School. Mm-hmm. And again, that was for a full year. And another one was called Chicago Academy. So I had to go to both of these schools throughout the week. So 2 days at Mather High School, and the other one was at Chicago Academy. Really, really good experience. Some of the students from Mather, I believe they are from Rogers Park or close to Rogers Park. So I had a lot of experiences with the population, even within my neighborhood. Yeah.
Well, a lot of students and a lot of your clients have been helped by you. If our listeners at WLUW want to learn more about you, Glenn Sevier, and walk and talk therapy, where should they go?
Well, yep, you can log on to my website. Is www.advance, ADV as in Victor, ANCE potential.com. So advancepotential.com. Or you can just Google up my name, Glenn with 2 N's, Sevier, that's SEV as in Victor, IER. And my name should pop up somewhere, somehow.
Glenn, thank you so much for joining us on WLUW Chicago 88.7 FM.
Thank you.